Can you deprogram your Trump cultist friends and family? And this is, what got me started on this. Yesterday, Keno called in. He's a regular caller of ours down in Lakeland, Florida. He's been listening for years. Started out as a Republican caller, in fact, and was for years. He was, one of our friendly Republicans who would call up and we'd have conversations about policy and stuff. And now he's a little concerned about Donald Trump. And he said that, he's got, I believe, a brother and sister, is my recollection, who are, in the Trump cult. And what do I do? So, when I got off the air yesterday, I sat down and thought, hey, what do you do? And I spent a considerable amount of time doing research on this thing. In fact, if you click on any of the hot links in the article over at Hartmann Report, this Can You Deprogram Your Trump Cultist Friends and Family article, you'll find all these studies. I mean, I found probably 60 or 70 studies on authoritarianism and, what it is, where it comes from, how it affects people. Authoritarian followers, they've got all these personality characteristics that just kind of work with the right wing. And so, the bottom line is that we've got this 20% of Americans, roughly, who are authoritarian followers. They just want Big Daddy to take care of them. And I say Big Daddy very specifically. George Lakoff has been talking about this for years now, that the Republican Party is operating along the lines of a strict father family model. Daddy knows best, father knows best, right? And the Democratic Party has been operating along the lines of the nurturing family. We are a family together and we support each other model. And authoritarian followers very much want Big Daddy. They want that strict father. They want a strict father who is so strong to make them feel safe because they feel frightened and weak, who is so strong that he can even defy authority. Roughly half of Republicans answered yes to a statement, this was a couple of years ago, that they think they would support a candidate who was willing to break the rules in order to get things done. This is classic authoritarian follower stuff. And so, while people may have policy reasons for supporting Trump, they're racist or they want to be a billionaire when they grow up, or they're very, very wealthy or something like that. By and large, I think the vast majority of people who support Trump and this Republican cult, basically, are just authoritarian followers. They're people who were literally born that way. They were born, or at least half of this disposition is temperamental. It has to do with the way we're born. And they actually did, one of the studies I found yesterday that was most fascinating was identical versus fraternal twins. And what they found was that among identical twins, when the one twin was an authoritarian follower, the other twin was almost always an authoritarian follower. Whereas among fraternal twins who don't have identical DNA, one twin could be an authoritarian follower and the other one could not. And in fact, that was more commonly the situation, because only about 20% of us are authoritarian followers. Authoritarian followers are super vulnerable, super susceptible to anything that frightens them. And this is why, billionaire-owned Fox News, this is what the right-wing billionaires in America know and what they've been doing. They're using fear to motivate people. This is why Fox News, run by, a right-wing billionaire family, is constantly hysterical about, oh my God, there's an invasion of brown-skinned people coming into America. And there's riots by Black Lives Matter people. And there's hordes of homeless people and Antifa. This is why billionaire-funded groups with words like moms and liberty and freedom in their names are trying to scare the hell out of white parents, telling them that queer and black people are trying to recruit and groom their children or steal their savings through reparations. This is why the Republican Party relentlessly claims that Democrats are stealing elections through nefarious means, thus explaining Republican losses, but also providing a nice rationalization for legislation that makes it harder for average working people to vote. And, the side effect of all of this Republican fear is that it actually increases the number of authoritarian followers in our society. Because, people are kind of on this borderline, and when they feel like they're under attack, or they feel like their society or country is under attack, they're more likely to become authoritarian followers. This followed 9/11 here. It followed the train bombing in 2004 in Spain. Good studies on those things too. So what do we do about this? Well, my suggestion, and again, I did a deep dive into the research on how to deprogram cult members, and my first suggestion is think of your Trump-humping friends as cult members. Not as political enemies, not as, misguided or whatever, but literally as cult members, because they are. This is a cult. It's a cult that's been very, very carefully, cultivated over the years. And so how do you deprogram cult members? Well, the first thing you do is you don't challenge them right up about being in a cult. You instead try to build bridges to them. We are all members of multiple tribes. Right? Your family, your religion, your region, the schools you went to, the sports teams you support, your political affiliation. These are all areas where we can behave tribally. And so one of the best things to do is to identify those areas where the person you're talking to, the Trump humper you're talking to, actually shares a tribal identity with you. Hey, we're both Christians, or we're both Jews, or we're both, we both support the football team, or we're both proud to be citizens of the state, whatever it may be, right? We're both parents. And then instead of making assertions, ask questions. One of the key assumptions of NLP, and there's only one paragraph about this in my article, but one of these days I'm going to write a whole piece on this. One of the core assumptions of neurolinguistic programming that we're doing courses on over at wisdomschool.org. One of the core assumptions is that all behavior has a positive motivation. Even Jeffrey Dahmer, all behavior, it may be weird and twisted and deeply buried, but at some level, deep down inside, everything everybody does is because they think it's the best thing to do. So the challenge that you have when you're talking to your Trump-humping friends and relatives and family and whatnot, is to ask them questions that will elicit that positive outcome that they're trying to achieve by following Trump, or following the Republican Party, or going along, or watching Fox News all day long. And then you'll probably have a common basis because, everybody wants a positive outcome, right? So, there's some suggested questions there. The other thing is, if you're going to have to discuss Trump, don't talk about him being a fascist or a strong guy, because that's what they want. Remember, these are frightened people who want Big Daddy. Instead, talk about him being weak. Talk about him being frightened by immigrants, terrified of going to prison, constantly stealing from people, lying to and cheating on every one of his wives, stealing from kids with cancer, subservient to Putin, bowing to the Saudi dictators who give his family billions of dollars. Characterize him as weak and fumbling, and you'll have more success in breaking that bond between those people. We'll be right back.